Okay, we've got our peep in, we've got our draw length set. Now we're almost ready to shoot it, but we need to get the cam lean and the timing correct first. We'll start off with the cam lean, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's whether or not your cam is straight, kind of like it looks right here, or if it's leaning a little bit. It's from one side to the other. If it's not straight, it's not going to shoot straight. Next will be the timing. That's a little bit harder. That's as the cams roll around, I want both of these cams to roll and hit their draw stop, which on this one is this little flat right here. I want them to hit the draw stops at the same time. If they're out of sync, then the arrow's also not going to fly straight. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we've got the peep in. We have our draw length set, and we're almost ready to shoot. We just need to get the cam lean on and set the timing, which we're going to try to do both of those at the same time, just to save you a little bit of hassle. We'll start with explaining what cam lean is and how to adjust it. First off, we've got a 2-cam bow, so that means that a true 2-cam bow is going to have a yoke at the top and the bottom. And this yoke is where that string splits. It comes in really handy when you're adjusting the cam lean because I can shorten one side up or lengthen one side to allow my cam to settle into a nice even setting. I've got a little diagram here that helps explain it. We're looking at two different types of cam lean here, top and bottom cam. This is your top cam, so if you can see here, we've got a little bit of lean on the top side, and it's leaning clockwise, and that's if you're looking at it from the back, just like you're going to shoot the bow. So if I'm looking at my bow, and I can see the top of the cam is leaning over to the right of center, or on the bottom, if the top of the bottom cam, which is inside that yoke, is leaning to the right over to the center, that's either called right cam lean or clockwise lean. And then the other way around would be left cam lean or counterclockwise lean, and that is just like right here where your top of your top cam is leaning to the left or counterclockwise, and your bottom cam would also be leaning to the left or turning counterclockwise. Now, the way we will adjust this, if it is right lean, that means my red string is longer than my blue string. I need to shorten the red side up, which would be the left side of the yoke on the bow. We'll look at that in just a second on the actual bow. And then you would do it the opposite way around for the top cam for counterclockwise lean. That means my red is too short and my blue is a little bit too long, so I'd want to either shorten the blue side up or lengthen the red side out. Now, how do you check cam lean on your bow? Because you can't always see it. What I'll need to do is grab an arrow here, and on the Eliminator cam, you have a big flat spot. What I'm going to do is take the arrow and lay it flush to the cam. So we're right along the edge of the cam, so the arrow is running in line with the way the cam is running. And then I want to look how the shaft, as it runs down the string, how that shaft runs in relation to the string, because the string is going to be running straight between both cams and ideally straight down the middle of the riser. So when we look at it like this, you can see this top cam there. That top cam is actually showing us some counterclockwise lean or left lean. I believe that bottom cam is pretty close to straight, maybe a little bit of counterclockwise lean on the bottom cam, but it's very, very slight. When we go to adjust this, we will take the top cam, which is leaning inside or giving me some of that counterclockwise lean, and I'm going to need to shorten up this cable right here because it's leaning to this side. I want to shorten this cable and pull it back straight. So I'm going to add probably about 2 twists to this string, maybe not even that. Now on the bottom, I might add a half twist to our left side, maybe. We'll go ahead and take a look at the timing, because when I'm adding twisted strings, I've obviously got to have it taken down. So I'm going to have the tension off, and to adjust the timing, we'll have to have the tension off too. So to save you taking it down and pulling it back up again, let's try to get this all done in one round. So I can measure the distance from this hole to the limb, and then measure the distance from the top cam's hole in the same spot to the limb. And you would see on this one that your top cam is actually that hole is a little bit farther inside of the limb than the bottom cam. It's very slight, and it's not something you really see without measuring it. Another way, and my favorite way to check timing, is going to be a full draw timing. Now, it's really helpful to have a friend or a draw board if you're in a shop. They've got some good tools to help you out, but you can do it on your own if you are comfortable enough drawing the bow. I really suggest having a friend present to watch your cams as they rotate. But full draw timing is going to measure the actual time of the bow as you come to full draw, as you're drawing it the way you would shoot it. It's going to show you where these flats hit. And you can see on this module, there's a rounded edge, and that's where you get your draw weight. That's where the power comes from. And then you've got a flat edge that's closer to the center. The closer it gets to the center, the less you have to pull on the shooting string to get it to stay back. And that's called the flat. That's where your valley begins, where your let off is, and that's where your wall is. That's going to keep you from drawing all the way back to 34 inches. And that is the important part. So when this flat rolls over on the top, I want it to roll over at the same time on the bottom. Now let's see if it actually does that. So I'm going to grab my arrow so I don't dry fire my bow, and then I'm going to draw it in a safe direction. And while I do that, I want you guys to watch the top and bottom cams, and we'll get a little better picture of it here as I get it drawn back. So I'm drawing nice and slow, and as we get to that rolling over point, we can see the bottom is rolled in. The top looks like it's out quite a bit. So if I'm looking at the top cam here, like I say, I've got a lot of slack to take up there before I actually get to the let off. So that's going to make this shoot a little weird. It's going to make it a little harder to tune. In some cases, almost impossible to tune. So I want both of those to roll over at the same time. To adjust that, we're going to be twisting on the same cables that we twist to adjust the cam lean. On your, let's say the bottom cam, you have your downward pulling cable, which is the cable that as I draw actually moves down and wraps up around the bottom cam. On your top cam, you're going to have the same upward pulling cable, which as I draw, this cable moves up. And those are the cables that are actually attached to the cams. So you've got two cables attached to each cam. This is going to be the shooting string, and then there's this little string post back here where my bus cable, or my, on the top cam, upward pulling cable or downward pulling cable will be attached. Those are what we're interested in here. And as I shorten one of these cables up, it's going to slow down the rotation of the cam that it's attached to. So our cams are rotating clockwise from your point of view. And to shorten the cable up, I'm going to slow that rotation down. So my bottom one is turning a little bit fast, or if you look at it from the other point of view, my top one is turning a little bit slow. So I either need to slow down the bottom cam or speed up the top cam. We've also got to adjust torque on the top for the cam lean. When I take it down, I'm either going to be adding or taking twist away from the top yoke, and then I'll either need to shorten the downward pulling cable or lengthen the upward pulling cable. And then I'm just going to try to put all the twist that I'm going to add or remove into this top cable, and then leave the bottom cable alone, because that bottom cam is really close to having straight lean. I'll add a little bit of a twist to the bottom cam, and the top yoke and the downward pulling cable, that's where I'm going to do all my twisting. I'm going to do this all without a press again. Even though the press is a little bit faster, this is the way you'll be able to do it at home if you feel comfortable with what you're doing. The same thing to the top. Just like when we put the peep in, I'm pulling the tension off of the bow using the second bolt behind the limb pocket. There we go. That feels pretty loose. Pull a little bit more off the bottom. That is back to completely relaxed. Top cam, bottom cam. I know the bottom cam is fast, and my top cam has some counterclockwise lean. If I shorten this bottom cable up, I'm going to end up slowing down the bottom cam, which is what I want to do. If I shorten the right side of the top cam's yoke, then I'm also going to correct some of that cam lean. Now, like I said before, it takes very little to adjust cam lean, so we'll add 2 full twists. So we take that back out. There's 1, there's 2. I'm looking at the string and the way the string is twisted. I want to add twists, so this is on this yoke. If I turn it towards you, then I'm adding twist. That was 1 full twist. Let's go ahead and add another one. There's 2. Let's go ahead and put another half in there for good measure, and then pop that back on to the string anchor right up here. So I've shortened this, and because I've shortened this and it's part of the downward pulling cable, I've also shortened the downward pulling cable by the equivalent of about 1 1/4 turns on the downward pulling cable, because I've only shortened half of it up here. So I've already shortened this a little bit and slowed the bottom cam down. I want to pull, let's say I want to put another 1 1/2 to 2 twists in the cable as a whole to slow that bottom cam down, and then we'll see where the timing is. So I'm going to pull that bottom cable, the downward pulling cable, off and add 1 1/2 twist to it. If you look at where I'm attaching the string to, that's this bottom string post. And there's another one that looks almost identical to it, closer to the center of the cam. That is my routing post. And so it's important when you put this one on, you want to put it on the farthest away from the center, and then I want to wrap it underneath and around that routing post, just like this. And it can be a little finicky, especially when you've added twist to it. Okay, so you can see it here. We've got this post where I'm anchored to, and I'm coming around the routing post and bringing that cable around here, making sure that it stays in track. Now we just want to add a little bit of tension by turning that cam clockwise, and then pop that string back on. We're back on. Everything on the top cam is still on. I just want to watch that. Make sure that everything is in track and on post. And now I'll go ahead and start to tighten the tension back up in these limbs. About three turns at the bottom, and add about 3 turns to the top. There we go. And then check to make sure your limbs are seated. That's good. And we'll continue to add some turns to the bow here. Now I can see that my limbs are starting to pull out a little bit. They've unseated just a hair. And before I go back to full weight, I want to make sure, I did it on the bottom too. Before I go back to full weight, I want to make sure that we have seated these limbs completely. We'll put a little pressure on her. Okay, so we've got our tension back on. We've adjusted the cam lean and adjusted the timing and tried to do it all at once. If you remember before, the top cam was way off. Now, I'm going to run an arrow along the edge of it. There you go. It looks a lot better. So it's still got a little bit of counterclockwise lean, but it's really not bad. And at this point, I can leave it there and we'll shoot it. If we have any tuning issues, we can go back and take that out. So our cam lean is good. Now let's take a look at the timing. Now it was really bad before. We'll go ahead and put the arrow in. Now it feels pretty good. And if you can watch both of those, I'm right in. See how both of these cams are turning at the same time. They hit the same wall. Pretty close to being ready to shoot. In fact, the only thing left to do is to center shot the rest. We'll cover that in the next video.